I think I'm making this easy.
I know. Viewers, beware. You are in for a scare. Welcome to our creature features. Today, we are going to be featuring the zombie.
For those of you new to our channel, even if you're not new to our channel, this is going to be a new series we are starting here in September of 2021. This will be a Thursday release, except for our third Thursday reviews. So make sure you stay tuned as we dive into the monster manual a little bit from D&D, as well as take a look at creatures of that you can use within your D&D campaigns. We'll talk what their lore is in reality, how likely we think these things could exist, how they're used in pop culture, ways that they're featured in pop culture, and we'll talk a little bit about their stat blocks and how they're used in D&D. And of course, some of the information we provide for you for D&D may be meta things that your character may not know. This week, in our creature features, we are going to start it off with one of a classic kind of monster. Something that we all kind of see popping up more often recently with some...
it's very, very popular in pop culture right now.
Pop culture, along with conspiracy theories involved with COVID. So this week we're going to talk zombies. Zombies. For those of you who are not aware, I'm hoping everyone's aware, but we can't assume stuff. Just as a disclaimer, we will include links to any sort of information that we use, images we pulled in the description above, below, if you want to see where we got our sources from. But these being creatures of myth and fairy tale, a lot of them, some of them are kind of speculation. Some of this information is going to be our own opinions and thoughts about them. So if you don't agree with what we're saying, that is fine. You're up to having your own opinion. And if you want to add to the conversation of the topic of zombies, make sure you comment in the link below. We do have plans for other creatures, but if there are certain creatures you would like to know about or like to discuss, please
let us know.
Let us know in the comments below. And as an added note, on Halloween itself, we will be doing a live creature features.
Yes.
Where we'll kind of sum up the creatures we talked about. Maybe make a scoreboard, like a March Madness board of the ones that we've discussed, and pit them against each other and see who we feel would come out on top. We'll kind of figure that out. If we need to roll some dice to make some decisions, we'll do that as well. But that's to come. So that's going to be on October 31st of 2021, and we intend to make this at least a seasonal series, if not an ongoing series. So, without further ado, we'll get into the topic of zombies. Like I said, our first point is, what are zombies?
And basically, from a little bit of research that I had done, they're actually basically, from a little bit of research that I had done, they are from the Haitian folklore. And essentially what a zombie is the idea of an undead being created by animating a corpse. Whether it's, a lot of beliefs in, like, a lot of the folklore is magic based or voodoo of some sort, even though practicing voodoo right now doesn't, that's raising people from the dead is not part of their religion. It's just kind of that, voodoo is more of a darker, scarier, like very misunderstood kind of religion where,
but there's also like Wiccan beliefs.
Oh yeah,
voodoo has a good voodoo and bad voodoo.
I don't know enough about it to really, but yeah, and then in basic modern time, instead of it being based on beliefs or magic, it's
or necromancy.
Yeah, it's being more likely what would that be? A cause and effect situation with science fiction. So any kind of like science accidents, infection,
nuclear fallout.
Yeah, so all kinds of things that would change how zombies are brought to life. You know what I mean? So, but yeah,
I mean the current conspiracy theory is along the lines of I Am Legend.
Yes.
Will Smith being the last human alive.
Yeah.
Because of the mass breakout like COVID and individuals getting vaccinated. So there's some conspiracy theories that the vaccine is a way to zombify everyone. Far-fetched conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
based off of a lot of games and movies and pop culture, there is this idea that drugs or medicines or diseases could cause
some theories are also it being a psychological disorder. Like you would just
I mean, you can trace back this thought of zombieism almost to like the Black Plague.
Yeah.
Where you have these plagues that are causing for deterioration before death.
Yeah.
And people walking around and it's a spread. The Black Plague was just a spread of death.
Yeah.
If it came, it was just everyone died, but the sick and the undeathliness.
Yeah.
People would begin to smell of rot before dying. So.
Yeah. And I mean, you have to think like before modern medicine, diseases such as that necrotizing fasciitis I showed you, which is essentially a flesh-eating disease. You get a bacteria, an infection, and it literally eats your flesh. So you figure before modern medicine and being able to, either clean the bacteria or the infected area, amputate the infected area, excise it somehow. You have to figure if somebody caught this, it's very rare. But at the same time, like if somebody caught it and they're literally like rotting away in front of everybody, like that would put you in the like monster category, like who you're, the devil, you're not of this world. And here it could have just been an infection. So I thought that was kind of, an interesting theory as well as to how the whole like zombie thing could have, come about. You're alive and yet here you are looking like you're dead. So
I don't know that there's anything else to put into the lore things. Some things will have more lore for. Zombies are definitely something that's much newer age kind of thing. So there's not as much lore.
I mean, the word zombie didn't even show up in the English language until the late 1800s. So, I mean, you figure it's a little over 100 years old. So it's not even, it's a newer concept. And I think that, again, is during those times of, horrible diseases before modern medicine.
Brings us into our second thing, and this for zombies is going to be where it's a little bit longer. And that is, how is this used in modern pop culture? And I think zombies are a very interesting subject that has been utilized in a variety of different ways. Whether it's from the I've become a zombie and how do I deal with that? Or it's the mass dead rising and having to survive that.
Yeah.
An example of the first would be Santa Clarita Diet
Yeah.
or iZombie,
Yeah.
where you have this one individual or several individuals who have turned into zombies, and how do you utilize that? iZombie is both of those are more comedic.
Mhm.
Santa Clarita Diet, they're deciding to kill off certain people, specifically Nazis, to feed her appetite for flesh. And her husband, who's not a zombie, has to kind of figure out how to help her do that without bringing too much attention. iZombie, however, they take this into, it seems to zombieism had occurred from like a mass like party drug that was laced with something, and so you have this need to feed on brains. But what they did in that is that when you fed on brains, you got memories of the person. So you got and you started to take on attributes of the person who you fed upon. So she joins up with the autopsy department of a police department and is able to help solve crimes because of feeding on the brains of the dead. So, two interesting comedic takes on that. Now, your mass zombieism, there's some comedic plays on that, like Shaun of the Dead. Zombieland is another good kind of comedic.
Yeah.
Make sure you double tap. Make sure you shoot twice to make sure they're dead.
Yeah.
So I myself am not much of a horror person. Yeah. When we get through the spooky season, we'll get to some things that aren't necessarily much of horror entities as much, and that's where I thrive a little more. Yeah. But I am a D&D nerd, and even these horror things do have their place in D&D.
Yeah.
So on the other side of it, you do have your horrors, like what? Resident
Evil and 28 Days Later, Night of the Living Dead. I mean, the list goes on, and then there's you get your B movies and everything that you don't, and it kind of depends on like how you classify zombie, because there are, to me, like, I mean, basically it's a state of not being alive, but you're alive, right? Kind of.
Zombies.
Or is it you've completely died and you've come back to life?
So I think the essence of a zombie is that there's a lack of a soul. There's a lack of that. There's a lack of what made you besides your physical body.
Okay.
Now, granted, some forms of showing zombies take a different.
Right.
Talking iZombie and Santa Clarita Diet, it's kind of they're the same person. They just.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest one would be like The Walking Dead is like the biggest franchise. I think comparable with the Resident Evil. I think those are probably.
I think when you take it down to the absolute, most of the times when we're looking at things that portray zombies, it is just the flesh and bones. There's no intelligence there. There's no wisdom. There's no charismatic nature to them.
Okay.
They're just a body of decaying flesh that's been reincarnated. Whose only thoughts are to devour flesh of others. Basically spread. It's almost as if the disease has taken over the brain and has become the control center that just says have to eat flesh.
Yeah.
Like takes it almost as if it brings it back to a primal cannibalistic nature.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I had to sum up all entities that utilize zombies.
Right.
Taking out some of the outliers in any direction.
Yeah.
And taking the majority of things. That's how I would define it. If I took all pop culture and all data and I had to lump something into, like, categorize them in one way, as in undead, because a lot of what we will talk about are different forms of undead.
Right.
Ghouls and ghosts and vampires and all that kind of stuff. Specters,
right.
revenants. But if you take all undead, in my opinion, you're basically a reanimated flesh without a soul component, without a conscious, you take away every other part that makes us human.
Right.
Senses, emotions, all that. It's just I guess you could say, virus, a meat sack with one notion of having to feed.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think the having to feed is feeding on flesh, warmy flesh.
Yeah.
Because you don't necessarily see zombies feeding on each other.
Right. Right. It would have to be alive. Okay. Fair enough.
And your take?
No, I think that sounds how I would classify a zombie. I mean, even in Shaun of the Dead, where it was a comedic spoof on it, like a zombie apocalypse, people had to die and then they came back. You know what I mean? And they just wanted to...
Yeah, like I said, there's a couple things that are outliers to that, like Santa Clarita Diet, iZombie. It's a different take on the zombieism. But those are outliers. They're not like, if you take the majority of stuff, even in games, Dying of Light, 7 Days to Die, the Resident Evil games, Survive the Night, all of those games kind of take on the same concept. It's a surviving an onslaught of apocalyptic of individuals who are just hungry for flesh, having unsatiable appetite.
Right.
I think zombies have been something that's a more fan favorite. You see a lot more people doing zombie renditions of other people for Halloween.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, there was even, like, back, in town, there was a zombie run.
Yeah.
Where basically, the people that sign up for it are not zombies. And it's a race, essentially, like a running race.
It's normally a 5K.
Yeah.
That is also an obstacle. One of the obstacle elite 5Ks where
you can't be caught by a zombie. Like, it's a race to raise money and awareness for whatever their cause is. And then they have volunteers throughout the town join up to also be zombies and essentially chase the people. And if you're caught by a zombie, you're removed from the race, but you also become then a zombie. And then you get added then to the pool of people. And it's like a whole, like, they did it the whole way through downtown and everything. Like, they had all the streets blocked off. They had, and it happened at night. There was no, they shut all the street lamps off in that area of town. And you just had, they had, like, the safety lights along the ground for markers. But, like, all the street lights were down. And, like, it was really, really awesome. Like, just to go and watch it. Like, just to be a spectator. It was really cool to see. But then again, it's kind of like terrifying to think about, like, that if you're bitten or, in some aspects in pulp culture, if you just get a drop of blood, you know what I mean? Like the one, I forget what movie it was, but I think the guy got like one drop of blood in his eyeball and he turned into a zombie. Like, that's scary.
It's kind of one of those diseases that is on that sense of, like, the same as, like, AIDS or HIV, the sense of it's a bloodborne pathogen, which makes it very, very lethal.
Yeah.
to contain, and it can be very hard to contain. Yeah, I mean, even board game wise, I think Betrayal at the House of the Hill has a scenario that you can get to that involves zombies. There's a tabletop game called Zombicide, which is kind of Todd in our D&D group has it.
Oh, okay.
Kind of a objective-based team game that you're kind of surviving onslaughts, trying to get objectives done before you're overwhelmed by zombies.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
Lots of things utilize that. My uncle, for one holiday with his wife, they were both zombies. I think he did a zombie Bob Ross. I don't remember who. I think she did a really zombie cool. Betty White or something like that. So
that's really cool.
Again, people like zombies are a popular kind of thing.
See your reaction.
Before we do that, we have a debate to finish.
Yes,
there was a debate that we started off camera that we decided should be had on camera because we definitely had differing opinions.
I don't know what your opinion was. You wouldn't tell me what your opinion was.
Because
I thought to save it for this.
I thought it would be great for this episode. So, in planning for this episode, for some reason, while I'm sitting here, because of the lightings, it almost looks like we're green screen.
I love it.
Like,
the
lighting in the back and the lighting in the front is like so different that it almost looks like there's a green screen behind us.
It's not. This is our living room.
I know.
Underneath the curtains, there's still Easter stickers up. So,
anyways, we had started to discuss whether or not Frankenstein's monster would be considered a zombie.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
If we are going based off of our last defining factors of a zombie, what causes a zombie, and what are zombies, right? The being a bag of flesh whose only thirst is its hunger for flesh without any sort of conscious or living and its soul or whatnot, I do not believe that Frankenstein's monster is a zombie. It is reanimated flesh, but Frankenstein's monster had feelings and had desires. And what was not, the only reason why it acted out on people was because people monsterfied him and were attacking him.
Okay. So what would you call him then? Just a monster?
I would classify him as reanimated flesh.
What's the difference? Is that like Thing from the Addams Family is just reanimated flesh because it's just a hand?
Yeah. Yeah, if you go with a spookier version of Pinocchio being a conglomeration of children that were put together and then trying to get a soul for himself and become a real boy, again, there's more feelings in there. Frankenstein's monster had desires, which is what prompted the sequel, which became Frankenstein's Bride. Or the Bride of Frankenstein.
Yeah.
It's not a bride for Frankenstein himself.
Yeah.
Of course, when we're talking Frankenstein, most people associate the monster name as Frankenstein, but Frankenstein was really the doctor who made Frankenstein.
Yeah.
And Frankenstein in himself, I think that Frankenstein falls into more of a reanimated object. So you can have like animated. I think Frankenstein's more like a golem.
I don't know. I think he's a zombie.
Okay, tell me why you think he's a zombie.
Because every single part of him was dead.
Yes.
He was put together and reanimated by scientific means.
Mm-hmm.
in that aspect, he's a zombie.
I still would categorize him more with like a golem.
I guess I don't know what the definition of a golem is
That's something that we'll have to have in another discussion.
then.
Because
Okay.
I have to do some more research on that.
Okay.
But like, so D&D wise, golems are normally produced through magical means, are creatures that are produced through science or magic that are embody like a creature of sense, but are made of like clay or stone.
Okay,
or
that's what I thought it was.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah, so like Clayface and
A gargoyle.
gargoyle kind of falls
Be
in.
defined as a golem in D&D.
Somewhat.
Because they're usually stone and then they turn into flying monstrosities. So.
Yeah. So normally they're set to protect something. I would consider Frankenstein more of a flesh golem than I would a zombie.
I'm still saying zombie.
Let us know what you think in the comments below.
Yeah.
Are you team Frankenstein as a zombie? Frankenstein's monster is a zombie? Or Frankenstein's monster is something else? Say like a golem or animated flesh or some form of that. Because, again, in my opinion, in bringing the flesh back to life, Frankenstein still had more humanity to him in being reanimated than a zombie does.
I don't know. I'm still calling zombie.
Let us know whose side you're on. This is one of those topics that we will agree to disagree.
Yeah. In a fun way. Like
we can each have our own opinions.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the section of this episode that is more up my realm. So zombies are a monster in the Monster Manual, and they've been reimagined in multiple different books. Curse of Strahd, the Tomb of Annihilation. There's a couple different books. We like to use D&D and Beyond. Not sponsored by D&D Beyond. D&D Beyond wants to sponsor us. We would love to be sponsored by D&D Beyond, but we are not sponsored. It's a great tool for any DM, for any player to create characters, create encounters, have the resources right at your hand in a handy PDF file. Again, we're not sponsored.
Yeah. But we will link it down below so that way you can go and check it out yourself.
Yeah, we use it for a lot of our D&D needs because it's easily accessible. So the zombie itself comes from the Monster Manual.
Yeah.
Which, if you're a DM, there's 3 books that are recommended for all starting DMs. The DM's Guide, the Monster Manual, and the Player's Handbook will give you all the information you need to know to basically run a campaign.
Yeah.
There's more books out there. I have a lot of them myself that just add more content to it. On the same side, places like Humble Bundle, which we are partnered to, in the past has done bundles that release content to help supplement your game. In one of those, I picked up a book called The Tome of Horrors, which has expanded zombies, different types of zombies like basilisks and pyre zombies and plague zombies and spellgorge zombies. Spellgorge zombies are pretty cool because if you're a wizard, a necromancer, you can basically use a spellgorge zombie as a ring of spell saving. A 5th level ring of spell saving. So you can target the zombie's mouth with a spell, and that spell is saved in the zombie that the zombie can release as it chooses at the level it was cast, up to the 5th level spell. So you can cast 1 5th level spell, you can cast a 4th level and a 1st level, a 3rd level and a 2nd level, a 3rd level and 2 1st levels, 5 1st level spells, whatever adds up to 5, essentially.
That's cool.
Yes.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so it's kind of a cool zombie to throw at your players that are a little bit of higher level. If you have like a necromancer who's also like the necromantic wizards. There's also the Kobolds Press. Anyone who's familiar with D&D Kobold Press releases books that go along. They're not official content, but they're books that are very well tested content that they put out. They have the Creature Codex, which adds in additional zombies like blood zombies that if you melee them, you will end up taking a D8 of necrotic damage, and it gains temporary hit points back from you getting hit. So it basically can fuel itself in hit points by you attacking it because it's going to leech your life from you through your blood. And then there's the Zombie Lord, which makes a cool kind of like if you're doing a small arc that's using undead, the Zombie Lord can be one of your like end bosses. It's definitely a harder thing. It has legendary actions. And when we hit the new year, I'll be doing a series where I'll talk about DMing stuff and whatnot. We'll cover more of that in there. So zombies can be a really cool thing to fight. One thing to know about zombies is they are immune to poison and being poisoned. So poison stuff doesn't work on them at all.
Yeah.
Also, all of the zombie type things, you could quite literally make anything a zombie, adjusting it a little bit, but all zombies, essentially, when they hit 0 HP, by any sort of damage that's not done by radiant damage, they get to make a con save, and if they pass the con save is like 5 plus the amount of damage they took. If they pass that con save, instead of dying, they go to 1 HP. And it's not like a player stat where like a player some players like the Warlock can get an invocation where if they hit 0 HP, instead of hitting 0 HP, they can go to 1 HP, and then that's until they take a long rest.
Okay.
There's several classes that have abilities like that. This is every time they take damage that put them to 0 or below, they get to make the save, and if they pass, they keep living.
No.
They're undead.
Yep.
They're undying. So, how would I use... so, zombies in general, now some of the zombies not as much, but zombies in general have very low intelligence. They're not smart. The base zombie has a 3 in intelligence, which is a -4 to all intelligence stats and saves. It has a 6 in wisdom.
Okay.
So it's -2 to all wisdom stats. Now it is proficient in wisdom saves, but that only gives it a +0.
Oh, okay.
And their charisma is a 5, so they have a -5/3 to charisma. Their con is pretty good at a 16, so they have +3 to con, and they've got a decent strength of 13, so they have a +1 to strength checks. Their dexterity is bollocks. Obviously, a zombie is not going to be able to move very quickly or whatnot.
Yeah.
So it's a 6 in dexterity, which is -2. Their walking speed is 20 feet. Their armor class is 8. They don't have very good armor. Passive perception is 8, so you're likely able to sneak right past them.
Yeah. Unless you're my ally.
You could still possibly...
very unsneakable.
You still could possibly sneak, depending on what you roll, even at disadvantage. And then languages-wise, really comes down to what they do when they die. Okay. So a dwarven zombie would understand dwarven. Obviously, zombies don't really speak much.
Yeah.
If I was using them as a DM, I might use them in like a graveyard scene, have some sort of trap for players, and have zombies come up depending on the level of players. Them being a 1/4 CR, I'd probably, with a party of 4 level 1s, I'd probably throw like 4 at them. Maybe even 3.
I think it's funny that you would, in a campaign, make a zombie trap where zombies pop out onto the party, but in 7 days to die, you think it's a bad idea for zombies to pop out of all of the coffins that you loot in the
I'm
cemetery.
not saying it's a bad idea. I'm saying I wouldn't play it anymore.
I think it's a great concept. You guys need to do that.
I'm saying I wouldn't play anymore because I'm a fucking scaredy cat.
We would just avoid the cemeteries.
I am a scaredy cat, and I will admit it. So that's a no for me. But throwing shit at players when I'm a DM,
that's okay.
That's very much okay.
You have control of that situation.
Yeah. Other zombies that we didn't mention, things that I feel fall into the zombie category would be Drugar.
I don't know what a Drugar is.
Have you played Elder Scrolls?
No.
Okay.
I own it, but I played very little
of
it. I just haven't had the time.
More specifically, Skyrim.
I have Skyrim.
Okay.
I played for about an hour and a half and was just getting the hang of it, and went to save it because there were small children around, and it's very hard to play a game like that with a bunch of small children running around. And went to save it, and it wouldn't let me save. So I just closed out of the game thinking, okay, well, maybe it autosaved. And no, my character that I created and played for an hour and a half disappeared. And at that point, I was like, no, I'm not going to play for a little while.
So, Drugar come from Scandinavian cultures. The Drugar is an undead creature from the Scandinavian saga literature and folklore. Commenters extend the term Drugar to the undead in medieval literature, even if it is never explicitly referred to as that in text. So there are certain rites and rituals that it's believed that some of the more Norse individuals, upon being put in the crypts, they could be kind of a cross between like a zombie and a mummy. But the magics of the crypts and the magics of the afterlife allow for the bodies to be able to be reanimated to protect the undead, the dead. And the sense. So
was there a scene like that in Lord of the Rings?
I think so.
Didn't they go into like a cave and there was all the ghosts and
There was
stuff?
a ghost, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess they weren't actual bodies, but it was...
The Old Norse meanings of the word are revenant, undead men, and ghosts. Drugars live in their graves, often guarding treasures, buried with them in their buried mounds. So they are reanimated corpses. Unlike ghosts, they have a corporeal body with similar physical abilities as possessed in life.
Okay.
So you could kind of categorize them more with revenant. They have more higher functioning than a zombie, but they're still that kind of living corpse. So if you want to think, some of our zombie tales could come from the Drugar myth and fantasies.
Yeah.
Which again is more Norse than Scandinavian.
Yeah.
Which I forgot to mention before because my brain has brain fart sometimes. So yeah, D&D wise, go back to that. Lots of things to use that. Remember, any information we do share with you about zombies, if you are a player, just because you know it does not mean your character knows it. Now, if you are a necromancer, wizard, obviously talk to your DM about what your character does and does not know before going into certain situations. That takes us through our D&D section of this. Yeah. I think, unless there's anything you want to add, you're kind of like, whatever I want to say, I'm still new to D&D, so tell me how I can fight be a cleric who can, one of the cleric's abilities is basically you can cause all the undead around you to like flee from you and do lots of damage. And clerics have lots of radiant spells like Guiding Light and Searing Flame or Sacred Flame and all that fun stuff. So be a cleric or a paladin. Paladins can do some radiant damage.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Okay. So the last question would be:
do you think a zombie apocalypse could actually happen? Because there are cases, especially in like Africa, where people have, like, villagers have thought these people, members of their family, were dead, and like years have gone by, and then they come back to the village. Like, there was actually a report on that one, where this guy was dead for like 10 years and came back as if nothing had changed. Like, had all of the memories of this person, looked like this person, acted like this person.
So was he actually dead? Or was he just in a coma?
They buried him. He was classified as dead.
Right, but you're talking about a third world country whose medical abilities and understanding aren't as ours, because when you go into a coma, most of your senses, and for someone who couldn't...
But he didn't appear to have aged. And he was gone for years. And then just showed up back at the village.
That would be more like a resurrection. What is it? Lazarus chamber type of thing, which is a whole different topic. In and of itself.
Yeah. Don't need to get into the Lazarus projects.
Not with zombies.
No.
No, that's a whole different topic in and of itself.
Yeah, but then there was, like, I wanted to look up that one case, and did you read it?
No.
Did you read it?
I did not. I'm not read it.
Okay. So back, I was like, there's this one case. I was like, don't you remember the one case of the guy that got his face eaten off? And he's like, I remember it, but what happened?
I remember that there was lots of people doing bath salts and doing crazy fucking things.
Yes. But... So apparently, a Miami homeless man named, what was his name? Ronald Popo, was attacked by a guy that the police suspect he was high on bath salts that ate Ronald's face off. Like, literally chewed 75% of this guy's face off and plucked his eyeballs out. Like, because of bath salts. Now, his official autopsy report, because the cops did end up killing the attacker, but the autopsy report said that they couldn't find, like, anything in his system. But then they also released that there are hundreds of different components that, you know, each different thing would have a different component parts to create, like, bath salts. And at that point, they were only able to test up to 40 of them in a toxicology report when there could be hundreds. So just because it didn't show up on a toxicology report doesn't prove the fact that he may not have been high on bath salts. But I remember that being like the bath salt zombie apocalypse, like when the bath salts were a way that people were getting high, you know, like, which I don't even understand how people come up with things like that. But like, if you were on a drug that had you that messed up, like that, because, and it was just reported that the guy had a bad day and he just attacked this guy. Like, they had known each other, you know, on the streets.
I mean, again, and you're talking about a drug that no one really knew much of at the time.
Right. But it turned this man into, like, a cannibalistic killer. Like, he literally was trying to kill Ronald by eating him.
Yeah, that's cannibalism, but not necessarily zombieism.
Well, I mean, he had, you know, a thirst to chew on somebody and he was didn't really have a conscious brain.
Yeah,
Just because he didn't die first, like.
I mean, yes, no.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not more cannibalism.
Yeah, but still, like, I remember when that was like the bath salts were going to cause the zombie apocalypse. Like, I remember that. Like,
yeah, and now COVID-19 is going to cause a zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
it's going to turn into an I Am Legend.
Yeah, exactly.
Thing.
Is it plausible? Possibly.
Yeah.
Is it plausible in the sense of what we think of zombieism or what we define zombieism as? No.
To the point that somebody has to die and come back.
Right. Right. But is it possible for someone to lose enough of their senses to be completely, or a mass amount of people to lose enough of their senses to become hungry and thirsty for human flesh, and that be contagious?
Yeah.
I think that's plausible.
Yeah.
I don't know that I want to say that it's possible.
Yeah, I don't even want to go there. That would be horrifying.
But I think that it's plausible.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, just the advances in science and things like that. I mean, they're talking like micro robots for surgery. Like, they're going to release all these little micro robots and they're going to go in and do the surgery and repairs and things like that. And I'm like, okay, if we have the technology to send nano robots into people, like, who's to say you couldn't develop a disease like that? I mean, diseases, in fact, like viruses and things like that, they morph on their own anyways. Like, they all evolve on their own. So who's to say that, like, in a lab somewhere, somebody's not trying to concoct the perfect virus to kill people off, and yet they'd still come alive to destroy everybody afterwards?
Mad scientist thought right there.
Well, yeah.
Anywho, that's about the time we have for this episode. So, let us know what you think in the comments below. Do you think a zombie apocalypse could happen? Do you think a zombie apocalypse could happen in our time? What are your thoughts on the lore of zombies? If we missed something, please let us know and send us information. How do you use it in your D&D campaigns? Have you used them in your D&D campaigns? Have you adjusted another monster to make it a zombie for your D&D campaigns? Let us know all that in the comments below. While you're at it, make sure you like this video and hit that subscribe button so you, along with the bell notification, because I forget to say that sometimes, because normally I'm streaming. Make sure you like and subscribe and hit that bell so you know when we post up new videos or go live. Make sure you follow us on all social media platforms at D&D and Things, with a Z at the end. And in the meantime, make sure you keep being a beautiful, unrepeatable miracle, also known as a bum. We'll see you in the next time. So will Bert. Bert will see you next time too.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.